Hello, meatbags.
Jesus, we're going in hard! Strap in!
Now to tackle another social justice warrior, Riley J. Dennis, an intersectional feminist, non-binary, trans, queer, lesbian, and wants to be called man or woman, and brings up that not using a pronoun equals a great act of violence.
And now I'm about to blow my fucking brains out!
In 2014, Laverne Cox said that misgendering trans people is an act of violence.
So let me get this straight here. So when 4 people kidnap someone and torture them for 40 hours, like beating them senseless, cutting off pieces of their scalp, and forcing them to drink out of a toilet, in your eyes is the same equivalent to someone calling you a man because you got a fucking giant Adam's apple poking out of your throat.
Since then, she has repeated this statement multiple times, but some people still don't want to believe it.
Yeah, because in your poisoned mind, it doesn't register that people are not going to take that seriously to someone getting punched in the face, then not being called the right thing. You can sit there and say you're a fish and proclaim you can live underwater, but I'll be on the shores laughing at you while you drown in your own stupidity.
So I thought I'd explain why intentionally misgendering trans people is an act of violence.
Okay, let's see how far the rabbit hole goes.
And why you shouldn't do it. But to get started, we need some definitions. Misgendering is the act of referring to someone by the wrong gender or implying that they are a gender that they are not.
Look, man, the reason why people misgender you all the time is that gigantic Adam's apple poking out of your neck. I mean, come on, are you even transitioning? Or did you just grow out the hair and put on some makeup? Because you did. And now you look like the old style trannies, and you wonder why people call you a man.
So if you call a boy she or refer to him as a girl, that's misgendering.
Actually, that's more of an insult, you fuckwit.
You can misgender cis people or trans people, but it's particularly dehumanizing when done to trans people.
Of course it's worse when it happens to you, because it has to be worse since you are involved, right?
And it's something that basically all trans people have to deal with at some point.
Oh, boo-hoo! Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
This is serious!
I know! This really is the world's smallest violin. See?
I mean, you could be a quadriplegic, but I guess being called a man is worse than that.
Of course, there are times when people intentionally misgender feminine cis boys or masculine cis girls.
Again, that's probably basically just insulting them. Calling a boy a girl or a girl a boy is to insult them, really. But it would seem that you labeled that on purpose to make your point, but it just makes you look retarded.
As a way of trying to reinforce arbitrary gender roles. And that's awful as well.
Why?
But I'm mainly going to be discussing misgendering towards trans people in this video.
Because fuck the normies!
Violence is a harder thing to define.
No, it's not. You know what is hard? Keeping track of all the genders Tumblr comes up every day. It's about 1,000 an hour.
Several dictionaries say that it involves the use of physical force, including the Merriam-Webster and Oxford dictionaries.
Exactly, and we all know how much you people love the definition of the word feminism to the point of orgasming.
However, dictionaries are not intended as all-knowing, unchangeable rulebooks. They change and adapt over time as our usage changes.
No fucking shit. The English language has been butchered since its inception. But, however, that doesn't stop you feminists from quoting that goddamn definition like your life and argument depended on it. Which it shouldn't.
They are almost always descriptive rather than prescriptive nowadays.
Only when you need to push your agenda.
I would argue that their definition of violence is outdated and doesn't encompass all of the forms of violence we recognize today.
We have many forms of violence, and it mostly has to do with actual physical harm, whether it be from someone clubbing you over the head with a mallet or shooting you in the face with a gun. We don't need to change the definition every time when a new way of hurting someone is made, and there's always something new around the corner.
I might actually have to stop at the patent office, because I'm about to invent a whole new kind of pain for you, Lelouch!
And the World Health Organization agrees with me.
I do not give a flying fuck.
In their 2002 World Report on Violence and Health, the WHO defined violence as the intentional use of physical force or power, threatened or actual, against oneself, another person, or against a group or community that either results in or has a high likelihood of resulting in injury, death, psychological harm, maldevelopment, or deprivation.
What is your fucking point? Has it dawned on you that maybe they're pushing this so that more people will see that they need more pills to swallow? Because there's more money in it? So they push this bullshit out so the definition can be pretty much anything under the sun that can be labeled as violence.
This definition is purposefully broad.
You fucking think?
The WHO recognizes in their report that violence is culturally influenced and varies widely across the globe.
Hey, numbnuts. I think you found the problem.
What some people see as violence, others may not. However, in an effort to fight violence worldwide, this is the definition that the WHO came up with, and it explicitly includes non-physical forms of violence.
Now, with that definition, you're not just fighting violence, you're also being thought police.
They say physical force or power, and they note that power isn't necessarily physical. It includes all types of societal power imbalances.
Like how the government that makes laws, and if you break those laws, the law enforcement will respond with violence. Like how someone robs a pawn shop, the police will try everything to stop you. But with that definition, the police are the ones committing a violent crime, which is borderline retarded.
Plus, their definition states that violence doesn't have to result in physical injury or death. Instead, it can result in psychological harm.
Just like this year election, with you, Lacey Green, and every social justice regressive left cradling and crying in the fetal position. That was just delightful.
Given that this is the definition that experts on the topic of violence have come up with, I would argue that it's a much better and more effective definition than the one currently listed in most dictionaries.
Look, sitting there and bitching all damn day about some definition needing to be changed is not going to help you with the misgender problem. My advice is you'll lose the Adam's apple. Jesus, it looks like you can cut steel with that damn thing.
Therefore, violence does include psychological violence, and misgendering a trans person is absolutely an act of psychological violence.
And now I'm about to blow my fucking brains out!
If you still, for some reason, have a problem calling it violence, then call it aggression or abuse or whatever you want. The point is, it's a bad thing that we shouldn't do. Ask any trans person and they can tell you how awful being misgendered makes them feel.
My advice is you'll lose the Adam's apple.
It's a way of invalidating their identity. It makes them feel disrespected, isolated, uncomfortable, and hated simply because of their gender.
I don't hate you because you're a gender, and since you're non-binary, you don't have a gender, so there's nothing really to hate. But I do hate you because you're a dumbass human.
It tells them that they should hide who they really are, that people will never fully accept them. Misgendering a trans person causes real psychological harm.
Not as much as this year's election.
And not only that, but it contributes to physical harm too. Lots of factors contribute to the extraordinarily high rates of suicide among transgender people, but misgendering is definitely one of them.
Seems more like we're just waiting for it to happen here.
According to the 2014 National Transgender Discrimination Survey, 4.6% of the US population reported that they have attempted suicide at some point in their life, while that number was about 41% for trans people.
Hey, dickhead. Maybe the reason why they kill themselves is because they were born in the wrong body and do not have the means to fix it. So the only way they could see to fix it all was to end it all. You fuckwit.
However, studies show that having a supportive family, like people who don't misgender you...
Yeah, I don't think it's because they misgender them, okay? I believe the ones that support them are helping them to transition and probably will call them what they are when they finish with the transition process, like it always was. Because of people like you, there are more people who are now more uncomfortable around trans people because of assholes like you who just grow out or dye their hair and put a bow on their head and demand to be treated like a special fucking snowflake.
Can greatly reduce that rate. The 2015 US transgender study found that the rate of suicide attempts for trans people with unsupported families was 54%, while it was 37% for those with supported families.
Oh my god, that basically can be anyone. Trans people aren't the only people who can have parents that hate their guts.
Plus, misgendering contributes to a culture where violence against trans people is terrifyingly prevalent. A 2013 study by the National Coalition of Anti-Violence Programs found that trans people, and particularly trans women of color, were murdered at much higher rates than other LGBT+ people.
So instead of trying to figure out why that is, you just want to stand there on your platform and bitch about someone misgendering you. I'm wondering if you have a screw loose.
Misgendering may not cause someone to go out and murder a trans person,
but you'll probably end up saying it will. Don't you know? Misgendering someone is the gateway drug to murdering someone.
But it does contribute to a culture in which hating and disrespecting trans people is the norm.
What?
When, where, and why I delighted.
What?
Do I intend to find this time?
Which does allow some people to justify violence against trans people.
Yeah, violent people will justify violence because they are violent people. If the thought of going to jail for the rest of your life is worth it, then yeah, you're a violent person at heart.
However you look at it, misgendering trans people causes real harm, and that applies to all trans people, not just the ones you like. Because there are some not so great trans people in this world, just as there are some not so great cis people.
Quite the subtle jab to Blair White. Nice.
But everybody deserves to be gendered according to how they identify.
No, they don't, and no, they don't.
If you misgender someone just because you disagree with them, you're basically telling all the trans people around you that their humanity is conditional, and that the second you don't agree with them, their identity goes back to being invalid. There are so many ways you can insult someone without disrespecting all trans people. And I know that sometimes you'll misgender someone unintentionally. Maybe you didn't know their pronouns, or you just made a mistake. That's fine. Just correct yourself, move on, and try not to do it again. You don't need to apologize profusely and make a huge deal out of it.
I'm not going to apologize to someone like Milo Stewart, who doesn't identify as anything because she is a woman. She's not going to transition, prefers he, him pronouns, but still identifies as a woman, even though she's transitional binary, which doesn't make any fucking sense. You'll never see me apologize for that.
That's probably drawing more unwanted attention to the situation anyway.
You fucking think?
But once you know someone's gender, if you continue to misgender them, that's when you get into violent territory.
Which person are you talking to? Is it going to be me or the person I'm misgendering? Like what happened with Ben Shapiro.
You cut that out now, or you'll go home in an ambulance.
Yeah, that seems mildly inappropriate for a political discussion.
Yes, it can be tricky to switch over to new pronouns or a new name for someone, but if you respect them, or trans people at all, you need to do it.
No, I do not. Unless they actually put in the work and transition, then I'll call them what they want to be. However, with people like you, Riley, or should I say, Justin Dennis, until you grow a pair, or in this case, lose a pair, and go through the surgeries, then I'll call you what you need to. But until then, I'll give you the satisfaction of calling you Riley, okay?
And all of this includes non-binary people. If someone asks you to use they, them pronouns, just do it.
Non-binary is not a thing, okay? If I punched you where your genitals should be, you probably would be hunched over and throwing up at that point.
But you should know that misgendering a non-binary person is just as hurtful as misgendering a binary trans person.
At least with one, they actually have a gender to misgender. The other one doesn't have one to misgender. That's the point of a non-binary thing. So you can't really misgender someone who's non-binary because they don't have a gender. You see the problem with that? And non-binary transgender, that means they identify as a gender, but they don't identify as a gender. So it doesn't make any sense.
Non-binary identities are valid as well.
Fuck off.
So, intentionally misgendering trans people is an act of violence.
No, it's not, and it will never be, for fuck's sakes. So I'm done with this video. In better news, I've started uploading my Let's Play videos here on my channel. Links down below and after the video. Check them out when you can. And if you don't know yet, to get notifications on my channel for my videos, click that little bell on my channel page. And if you want to help support me, my Patreon is also down below in the description. And I will see you meatbags in the next video.